Yes, my BB. I can hear you nice and clear through my earpiece. I will allow you to speak through me, oh, fearless great leader. Ah, yes, of course. We will engage in the spin. We will puppeteer the masses. We will ascertain global control. Ah, yes. Thank you, Mr. BB. Yes, $7,000. Yes, yes. Per video, right? Yes. Ah, yes. Great. Thank you. Oh, yes. Great. We are connected. You are in control of my strings, my overlord. Oh, yes. Let me hide my special earpiece so they don't see when I go live. Yes. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much, my great leader. All right, folks, we are live. Welcome back. I had a horrible night. I got food poisoning last night, which sucks whole. So I'm kind of like trying to make my way through one banana. But it's been rough. Stuff was coming out of my mouth last night, all night. I'll spare you the specific details of that. And other stuff was coming out of me as well. I'm sure that's exactly what you wanted to hear as soon as I went live. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, cool. I'm just going to add the Discord link, make sure you guys have it. And then we're going to get into this. I've done a really quick 1.5 speed run through relating to some of the stuff Dave has said about me in this video. But of course, here at Pangburn, we're all about rigor. We're going to take it slowly. We're going to make sure we get things right. And if Dave has made any upgrades to his information or corrected anything, we're going to give Dave full props for that, of course. And to continue my ethical posture, the thing I think is good and righteous in the world, I will continue to not attack Dave personally, regardless of how he behaves. So I think we can do better than infantile personal attacks, and that's the posture I'm going to maintain. Well, someone just said the Dave video is a great advertisement for your recent videos. Yeah, like I actually think in a weird way, Dave is providing a public service by, targeting myself and Destiny in this video, because I hope it's going to point people towards the rigorous fact checking we've done and anti-Semitism detection and propaganda detection of Dave's original video titled Destiny Loves Genocide. So I'm this is the war of ideas, what we're doing here. I think the war of ideas should be carried out in a good faith, helpful way. I'm not someone that sees personal attacks as a good long-term goal or maximizing well-being for oneself and those around them. So I won't be engaging in any of that. But I think the war of ideas, it's totally fine for Dave to, go after me or Destiny here. And I think it's also totally fine for us to, in a good faith, helpful way, respond to the information. Join the Pangburn Discord server here. I would also ask chat to avoid getting tugged into any kind of infantile flinging of feces towards each other. Let's try to be more high resolution than that. If you see someone attacking me or attacking anyone else, try to actually talk about the data, the facts, the information. Use that as an opportunity to do that. Yeah, I did hack off my beard recently here. Okay. Well, as we have been doing, you guys are going to be able to take a look at Link on an adventure in the background while we go through this information. I don't know how many episodes this is going to take. It's a very long video, but if a lot of it is made up of Dave's like normative opinions about things, like I can give some ethical responses to that. But yeah, how's the stream running? Hopefully it's not lagging for anyone there. Hopefully not. Cool. I think we're looking pretty good. All right. Let's watch this beast. I will respond to any super chats. So if you do have a specific question for me, send it by way of super chat. I think we're probably going to have a bigger audience in here today, so I will miss a lot in the chat. But yeah. Anyways, thanks for being with me. Make sure you smash that like button. It just takes a second. I also just posted this episode on X. If you could go and repost it, that would be fantastic. Excellent. Okay. All right, Dave. I still love Dave, by the way. All my love to Dave. I think he's got an anti-Semitism problem. I haven't determined Dave yet to be an anti-Semite. I will be doing a much deeper dive into Dave's history on these topics and seeing if there is a repeated pattern of anti-Semitism that would qualify the label of anti-Semite, but we will just see on that.
Hey everyone, it's been a minute since I dropped this Hiroshima bomb, immaculately laying out the case for Israel's genocide against Palestinians and dunking on Destiny.
Just so everyone's clear right off the bat, the International Court of Justice has not made a determination that a genocide has occurred in Gaza. We're probably not going to get that determination until 2030 or 2031. That's the rough estimate. The International Court of Justice is not only going to look at the evidence for genocide that are presented, the evidence that comes forward and is presented. It's also going to look at the counter evidence from Israel. And that counter evidence hasn't been adjudicated yet by anyone because Israel doesn't need to provide that counter evidence to some of these organizations that have determined there to be a genocide in Gaza, or that a genocide has occurred. So I think it's premature. I think it's ethically and epistemically irresponsible to be going around saying that a genocide has in fact occurred. It would just it would be like going around and saying like, you know, I know this person committed this murder before the professional courts had their opportunity to adjudicate the defense and prosecution evidence. So I think it's ridiculous for people to be going around saying that this is a genocide. Is there stronger cases at this point for war crimes? I would say yes. Is there a stronger case at this point for ethnic cleansing? I would say yes. But genocide requires a demonstration of genocidal intent. I don't think I have not seen sufficient evidence that would constitute the determination by the ICJ as genocidal intent that has been carried out by Israel in Gaza. So that's where I'm at. But when the ICJ makes their determination, I will trust the ICJ's determination, unless there is some extraordinary event that causes us to doubt that the case was handled with due seriousness or carefully, etc. But in almost all worlds, I'm going to trust the ICJ's determination, whether they determine what happened in Gaza to be a genocide or not. I think that is the epistemically, scholarly, academic, responsible thing to do, not to be going around saying, if you don't agree with me, like Dave has said, you know, you're a Nazi. I think that's ridiculous. But we are going to take our time, as much as that might trigger some people, and we're going to go through rigorously and meticulously. Just had to get a little more banana in me. So thank you so much for the super chat, $19.99. Wow, that's a lot of diapers for my kitties. Thank you so much. Someone's comment convinced him to donate. Yeah, so smart. We couldn't call Nazis genociders until after World War II. No, that's not true. When we came across the direct evidence of genocide and genocidal intent, like industrialized killing camps and gas chambers and things like that, yeah, we were completely justified. Yeah. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. Okay. Let's see.
The fake progressive for denying said genocide. Well, now that the massive wave of damage control from his camp is over, it's time to drop the Nagasaki, so buckle up. If you haven't...
does anyone know what we're at with regards to Dave, how many comments he deleted under his video? I think one could reasonably say that that was a brand of damage control. Like, I don't know what Dave's reasoning is there for deleting comments en masse under his video, but the evidence seems to point to the fact that he has done that. So, yeah, I mean, if we're going to bring up damage control, what kind of damage control has Dave engaged in? We can get those numbers because there is a audit website that has been sent to me. If anyone on our Discord server could resend me that link on Discord, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Haven't seen this video, go ahead and give it a watch first. It was a long time coming, given how much I've been talking about Israel in passing in other content, and I was quite pleased to see how many eyes I was able to open regarding the cesspool of immorality and disdain for human life that is Israel. Again, Destiny's cult went absolutely apeshit over it, and brigaded my channel harder than any troll army has ever brigaded me before, perhaps with the singular exception of Matt Walsh's cult, when I made some content about trans people. Congratulations, Destiny's cult. You're one notch less toxic than the Daily Wire lemmings. And
do I not get any credit for that? It's not just Destiny's cult, it's also the Pangburn cult. Come on, man. I had to fact check that one.
I really mean just one small notch. While Matt's cult left comments shouting pedo and groomer literally every couple seconds for 2 full weeks, Destiny's cult left similarly toxic comments every 20 seconds or so for only 1 week, still desperately trying to change the optics in service of their loser hero. So
By the way, just so you guys have the link directly, if you are on X or on any social media platform, I would very much appreciate you sharing this link. Thank you. Someone says there is docs information in this video. Okay, we'll look at that. And make sure you smash that like button. It will help spread this stream far and wide.
I cut off their brigade just like I did for Matt, because that's what troll armies deserve, and they had a fucking conniption about that too. All of this activity was perhaps the funniest part of the debacle to me. In my video, I specifically showed what a Zionist smear campaign from a bot army looks like. The fake copy-pasted Twitter posts that all use the same wording, the bot farm output on my channel that was just thousands of instances of this dumb comment, and yet that's exactly what these dumbasses did to my Destiny video. Almost like they didn't know that their behavior was predicted in the first 5 minutes of the video they didn't watch. Thousands of comments that all mentioned...
Let's see. Wow, Dave, what happened to you? Where's the objectivity? You're acting like a zealot, unhinged take, and I'm unsubscribed. Get some perspective. Dave becomes a flat earther. Not on my bingo card. Yeah, I'm going to unfollow you. Also, your reasoning and logic in this is insufferably biased and stupid. I think that's an accurate
And
comment
something
about
about
the
being
actual content in the video. And this is a good posture, targeting the reasoning and logic as insufficiently biased and stupid, as opposed to targeting Dave himself. I think it's better than the monkey poo flinging at each other. Someone says, watch the full video. Yeah, you're a crazy person appropriating Nazi talking points. I don't think we should be calling Dave a crazy person. Finally finished the video. Dave's brain has been completely broken by this conflict. It's sad to see someone's mind get rotted so much by a single issue.
brain broke.
Yeah, I know people talk about the brain broken thing, but again, it's better to be specific. Like if you're going to drop a comment, say, this is where I think you got this fact wrong, or this is where I think you're being unethical, and take the time to be more rigorous than just saying this topic broke Dave's brain. Someone said, you are mentally unwell, man. This video screams of somebody who has genuinely lost their mind. I don't like that. Half of your sources are either TikTok clips or Twitter posts. If we fact check that, I don't think that's true, this particular comment, but we are focusing more on Dave here. This is the same type of video I'd expect to see from someone making a flat earth or misinformation videos you claim to be so against. That's very poignant, important comment. I agree with that. Just the level of misinformation, propaganda. Do I need to remind everyone that Dave's video had 25 false claims out of 85 analyzed clusters of claims, 25 false, 25 unsupported, and 35 misleading / overstated. So that's rough. 85 defective clusters in the entire video is very rough. This is 85 non-factual. And I released a video that puts everything into one video in quite a digestible way. But in Dave's original video, Destiny Loves Genocide, 85 non-factual claims. 85. This is all of these documents are available at pang-burn.com/analysis. So you guys can have access to that. But yeah, like if we look at the anti-Semitism in the transcript from Dave's original video, the transcript contains repeated rhetoric that crosses from legitimate, even extremely harsh criticism of Israel into anti-Semitic or strongly anti-Semitic trope congruent territory. This conclusion concerns the words and argumentative structures in the video. It is not a diagnosis of Dave Farina's private mental state or an assertion that every anti-Zionist proposition is anti-Semitic. But all the data has been collected. It's publicly available for people who really want to see a deep, rigorous, epistemically sound, high-resolution breakdown of Dave's original video. And that's what we're eventually going to produce with regards to this video we're analyzing today. Look at the propaganda level of the video. It's brutal. Dave, by my propaganda scoring, when it comes to like factual distortion, certainty inflation, selective omission, emotional and dehumanizing loading, things like that, Dave is at a 28 out of a possible 32. That's brutal. That is not the Dave Farina, the Professor Dave level of epistemic rigor that we all have come to know and love throughout the years. I think this is a huge problem. The anti-Semitism is, of course, the biggest ethical problem for me. And there is a buttload, and that is, of course, a scientific measurement term, buttload of anti-Semitism, and the propaganda is through the roof. At pang-burn.com/analysis, you will find a breakdown. And from what I saw when I did my quick check of Dave's response video this morning, he didn't even pull up any of my reports. He seemed to focus on the first initial quick fact check rundown I did before I did the full, 30 hours or so analysis of Dave's video. So is Dave engaging in hardcore cherry picking and not dealing with the rigorous aspect of my work? It seems to be the case, but we will see when we go through. Things like let's see. Well, these are all the unsupported and false claims. Yeah, it's rough. Dave said, for example, and this is one that is tricky given the determination of materially misleading. Quote, "This has nothing to do with Hezbollah, whose label of terrorist organization is laughable to begin with. Hezbollah and any other group that is labeled terrorists by Israel are simply people desperately defending themselves against Israeli terrorism. Hezbollah formed as a direct response to the Sabra and Chitila massacres, for example. So the correction and assessment here is Hezbollah arose amid Israel's 1982 invasion and occupation with decisive Iranian Revolutionary Guard support. It has a long armed political and transnational record, including attacks on civilians and foreign targets and intervention in Syria. It cannot be reduced to, quote, simply defensive resistance, and its terrorism designation is made by multiple governments, not only Israel." And then below, you will always get the primary sources here. So yeah, all of this data is available. It seems to be the case that Dave didn't go through this, all of the issues. Here's another one. Dave said, Israel is trying to force the United States to formally merge the American and Israeli militaries. Here's the correction and assessment. The Futures Act creates a bilateral framework for defense research, testing, procurement, and technology integration. It does not merge sovereign militaries. And then we have the primary sources here. So all of this is available. I'm not sure how rigorous Dave's video is here that we're about to look at. But I just wanted to point to that all of this work has been compiled. And if we go down to our graphed representations, the majority of the audited information was qualified but misleading. That means there's a kernel of truth in there, but typically things like conspiratorial line drawing will cause it to be misleading, or extrapolations that don't match the available evidence. But 23% write out false, 22% unsupported, only 20% supported out of the 100 speaker locked rateable Dave claims. Here's the propaganda ledger, the propaganda intensity index, and about 6.1% of the video was dedicated to anti-Semitism of Dave's original video. So I just wanted to go through that again for people who don't know that this information is publicly available. Let me just see. Oh, we got a super chat to look at. Thank you so much for the super chat. Please be careful watching this. Dave doxes Rose in this video. Oh, wow. We'll see if that's true. Welcome, everybody. Make sure you smash that like button when you get into the room. If you're not subscribed, I am live almost every night doing this kind of fact checking. Okay. Oh, and we can take a quick look at the report for today. It seems like compared to Dave's the last report I was just showing you, it looks like Dave makes 5 major concessions. When we look at whether the central version 2 findings were retained substantially, propaganda index is still at a 29 out of 32 in this video, and there's still a high concern for anti-Semitism in the video we're analyzing today. Okay.
Broken and bringing up mental health and something about flat earthers. Dave is brain broken and he is the flat earther now, concerned for his mental health, profoundly transparent. This was, of course, happening on Reddit more than anywhere else, with all the exact same language. Brain broken because he speaks out against genocide, totally not curated at all. And when they were deprived of their primary tactic, swarming a comment section with copy-paste spam comments to try and change the narrative, they had a complete meltdown. All of this despite the fact that Destiny's cult actively encourages him to block people and delete their comments, and they even do it on his behalf. Check this shit out. Destiny's IG comments are being flooded. We need to step up. It's gotta be stupid Hassan Piker, and we need to do something. Just delete the comments we don't like. Someone pull a double shift of deleting comments for me. Come on, warriors. And just blatantly talking about how curating comment sections for optics is the only thing that matters to them. Unreal. This is why completely erasing these loser hypocrites is the only correct course of action. Letting them poison the optics is no good. If I combat their lies individually, I'm unhinged and crashing out. So instead, complete erasure is the obvious consequence, and they whine about that even though they specifically encourage it from their dear leader. Besides the meltdown from Destiny's cult, Destiny made a pathetic attempt at reacting to my video, where he basically just sat there either laughing and saying nothing, or skipping ahead frantically as I outlined the case for genocide he is ideologically bound to denying, like a young earth creationist listening to a geology lecture. That was expected, of course, but the big surprise was Travis over at Pangburn having a
That's me.
total meltdown, making something like 50 hours of content about my one video.
Yes, I did. It was very rigorous, and I hope people watch it. I think there's a good lesson in this video and likely in this response we will put together. Yeah, I have one here. Take a look at this kid. Professor Dave targets a minor, which he did. He targeted Destiny's son, who is a minor. And what was interesting about this is that Dave was accusing Destiny of being sued for sharing explicit images of a minor. And that is not what Destiny's being sued for. So Dave very inappropriately got that wrong about Destiny's case. And then he targeted a minor himself. I think this is fair game. Image from Dave's video. Dave might get sued. And I also think the characterization, because I also analyzed Destiny's response video. Let's go back a little bit to hear what Dave said about that.
Ideologically bound to denying, like a young earth creatic attempt at reacting to my video, where he basically just sat there either laughing and saying nothing, or skipping ahead frantically as I outlined the case for genocide he is ideologically bound to denying.
No, I mean, Destiny gave a lot of pushback to Dave throughout that reaction, so that was misleading dissection of Destiny's actual response video, which I think people should go and watch.
like a young Earth creationist listening to a geology lecture. That was expected, of course, but the big surprise was Travis over at Pangburn having a total meltdown, making something like 50 hours of
Epistemic rigor is not a total meltdown. And if you guys watch the videos yourself, you're going to realize that I move very slowly, meticulously through the video and give Dave his due from a fact-checking perspective when I think Dave is right. When I think Dave is right about targeting destiny for a particular thing, I give Dave his due. You can the data, the evidence is there to look at if you want to look at it. But I'll see how honestly this is depicted in this video.
Of content about my one video, becoming progressively more and more unhinged as he went. Just take a look at the run times of these reaction videos, as well as the titles of the more recent ones.
The reason why the run times are so long, Dave, is because you had 85 non-factual claims, errors in the video. You also had a buttload of anti-Semitism, as outlined in my report. And it took a long time to go through meticulously because the propaganda presentation in that video was so thick. That's why it took so long. I mean, it seems like you're pointing at it and be like, oh, you know, look at the number of, look how long it took him. Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm too slow for you, Dave, but I like to be meticulous and correct about this stuff, like a scientist would want to be when assessing a massive ledger of claims. So
once. In fact, that's part of the reason for the delay in making this follow-up video. I had to wrap up my incredibly extensive Fauci video, and then I had a short family vacation, but I also just had to let this wave of damage control wrap up simply to maximize.
It's not damage control. It's simply me as a moral well-beingist. I am out to maximize well-being for myself and those around me. And when I see misinformation, propaganda, and anti-Semitism being promoted by someone who I've worked with, who there's a fair amount of content of Dave on my channel, I think it's important for me to protest it by way of rigorous fact-checking, giving my ethical stance, from a well-being perspective. By well-being, I mean physical, mental, and social health. So that's what this is about, Dave. I don't attack you once personally in all 30, 40 hours of video. There are times where I say you should be ashamed of yourself, or that, you know, what you think you're seeing is nothing effing like that. You know, I say things like that. Those are my ethical takes, my normative positions. And also, I should mention, all Pangburn analysis reports are all open to update. Nothing is set in stone. And if Dave gets things right or corrects things here today, there will be a version 3 of the original video report that will be called Dave's Update, and it will include any corrections he has made that are actually factually correct, or any ethical corrections. But we'll see.
The comedic impact of this video. I mean, truly, this guy is off his fucking rocker. In case you don't know who Pangburn is, he hosted my vaccine debate where Dan Wilson and I humiliated Pierre Corey and Steve Kirsch. He also
yeah, I think that's correct. I think they did humiliate. Also, Don was in that photo as well. Yeah, but I must say, and this isn't to say that Dave was, I thought Dave contained himself quite well based on the Pangburn stage standards. So, but I think Debunk the Funk, Dr. Dan Wilson did most of the heavy lifting for that debate, which is fine. I think Dave understood that that was going to be the case because it was important to get into the specific scientific elements. Someone said, need more mods. Jen Wink is available. Yeah, let me see if I can find Jen Wink. I will add them as a mod. Ah, right there. I almost clicked hide user. Okay, there. Jen is now a moderator. There we go.
Platform's destiny regularly through his anti-Trump tour. In fact,
Yeah, I've really enjoyed working with Destiny. For those of you who might not be a fan of Destiny, think that he like attacks too much or he's too out of control or things like that. I think he's worked on this a lot over the past year. We started working together about a year plus ago, and I wanted him as the star of the anti-Trump debate tour. And one of the things I wanted to see is the level of good faith and helpfulness he could bring to the dialectic on the Pangburn stage. And he has done that time and time again. I'm really proud of Destiny in how he's upped the level of resolution in what he brings to the table as in the dialectic, as a thinker, as a debater. And I really hope you all take a look at that content that exists on our channel. I don't think Destiny is perfect, and he has said some things that I disagree with, and I have sounded off publicly about those things as well. But for the most part, I have found him to be one of the hardest working, if not the hardest working intellectual I've ever worked with. And I just it's been a breeze and a beautiful thing to work with Destiny. And there are all of these unfounded, nasty claims about him on the internet. But I will say this for the record. I would trust Destiny with my children, to babysit my children, to look after my children. I would fully trust him with my children. So people can clip that and do what they want with it. But that's the truth. So.
Destiny seems to be the only way this guy makes money these days, which would explain why he would expose himself by coming to Destiny's defense.
I think that's a conspiratorial, I think that's a conspiracy theory, but Dave would have to demonstrate that. I mean, I've made, like, if we just look at the Pangburn website, the recent conversations we've had, on the docket right now, I have Lauren Southern and Pearl Davis having a SJW, a manosphere debate. I have the No God debate tour that we've extended to the West Coast as well. If you're a fan of allegedly Ian, Dr. Blitz, and Deconstruction Zone, those three atheists will be on stage for this tour in New York, San Francisco, and LA. I'm going to be sharing the stage myself with Sabina Hassenfelder to debate some things and to have some conversations related to science. I have Kyla Turner, who's on the docket right now. I've worked a lot with, Lawrence Krauss in the recent past. Konstantin Kisin from Trigonometry. That was a very important large-scale event for us. Dinesh D'Souza. Of course, Dave Farina himself and Debunk the Funk. Nick Pope from the UFO community. Him and Lawrence Krauss sat down for a conversation. Unfortunately, Nick Pope has died since then. Sending all my love out to Nick Pope and his family. And Alex O'Connor. Those are some recent names. So, yeah, I don't think Dave's giving a honest, clear picture of the facts here again regarding what's going on at Pangburn.
Especially after some previous scandals he's had that we will outline later in the video. But the mask-off, full-blown genocide denial from him was definitely unexpected.
It's 2 seconds. I just got to kiss my baby boy. He's going for his nap. He doesn't want to go for his nap. All right. Oh, so this says genocide is not real. If Dave would have been rigorous and actually ran some auditing himself, he would have learned from my very mouth that the ICJ, I am waiting for the ICJ's determination of genocide because they are the body that is best suited to do a full forensic legal investigation of genocide and genocidal intent. We're not going to get that determination until likely 2030, 2031. And I think it's the responsible thing to do ethically and epistemically to wait for that determination. If it turns out that the ICJ determines what happened in Gaza to be a genocide, I will accept the ICJ's decision. I'm not in a positive position. This is just false propaganda here that I'm being depicted as saying genocide is not real. That's ridiculous, Dave.
Anyway,
all of the evidence of that, by the way, is available for anyone that actually cares about what's true. In the many videos and many hours I spent meticulously going through Dave's original video that had 85 non-factual claims in it. Thank you so much for the super chat. It says, Mr. Farina and Mr. Borelli need to debate and bring a chalkboard. Love your channel. Oh, I really appreciate the $10 super chat. By the way, everyone, I will respond to all super chats. Sorry if I don't get to them right away, but sometimes it depends on what I'm doing. Oh, look, we have link fishing on the screen. That's awesome. Thank you so much for the super chat. I did offer the debate to Dave Farina, and Dave turned it down on multiple occasions. Didn't want anything to do with it. I also said I believed we could raise $1 million through our 3 platforms, based on my estimations, using the Pangburn system, using some other ways of trying to predict what a donation campaign could raise. Between all of our platforms, if we all put our effort into it, I think $1 million would be quite easily achieved. And I know Dave in his last email to me said, something about your false $1 million offer. And that money, of course, I would want to go to supporting Palestinian children. So
we're going to go through Destiny's train wreck of a response, followed by select highlights from Pangburn's marathon damage control session, since it's absolutely hilarious. And for the cherry on top, we're going to go way...
I'll be curious to see if Dave actually deals with the false claims that were found, the non-factual claims, 85 of them that I found going through meticulously through his video, and the anti-Semitism and propaganda, which are major issues.
Deeper into Destiny's bizarre sexcapades involving minors and violation of consent. Because if his cult went this ape shit from my first video, why not give them a fucking nervous breakdown? Hornet's Nest, remember? Okay, let's get started by looking at Destiny's response. But which one? There are several. Every time Professor Dave lied in his hit piece. Was it really a hit piece? Since for the vast majority of it, I was talking about Israel's genocide and not him? That seems dishonest. Destiny
No, I think both things can be true. I think it can be a hit piece at the same time. I mean, Dave, you wrongfully claimed that Destiny was being sued for sending nudes of a minor to someone without their consent. Like, how much harder could you hit than that? And then you attacked his son, who is a minor.
reacts to Professor Dave's takedown video. WTF is this? This is me exposing you as a genocide denier. Oh, and then the damage control from the fans.
Dave, the ICJ have not made their determination on genocide yet. If the ICJ says, well, the ICC or Israel themselves doing their own investigations might determine there to be a litany of war crimes, but the ICJ might say the standard for genocide has not been met in this case. Is Dave just going to disagree with their forensic adjudication of the evidence, or what's going to be his stance if it doesn't turn out the way he wants? And also, just because he's saying this now, espousing this, doesn't mean he is reasonably justified to believe that genocidal intent has actually been demonstrated. which I don't think Dave has demonstrated that in all the work he's done here.
Coward, deranged hit piece. He's hiding and scared. Look how unhinged I am in this AI-generated expression I've never made in my life. Destiny exposes Dave. He's so terrified. And Hassan Piker is in the thumbnail for literally no reason whatsoever. Dave's brain is broken. There's that phrase again. Okay, which one do we tackle? This long one seems
I saw a loner box there.
to be the main one, so let's dig right into it, starting with the Stinger intro. Remember, the Stinger intro is always front-loaded with all the super awesome, most kick-ass moments where he is totally owning so hard. So if he's got any real ammo...
Not really. That's not what a Stinger needs to be. A Stinger wants to be enticing. It doesn't have to outline the most knockdown owning moments of the video.
Well, we should see it right away, yeah? At any rate, influencers were being paid to disseminate the narratives that the state had settled on each day.
Who? Who? I keep hearing this claim. Who is getting paid? I haven't met anybody. I didn't get paid. Who is getting paid for this?
No, it is true that Israel, based on my fact check, it is true that there was a fund for some influencers that were promoting pro-Israel messaging. Well, we're being paid. That's not false information. I just want to see. But yeah, that part is true. Just because Destiny hasn't seen it or he alleges he hasn't been paid, that doesn't mean it wasn't happening.
Source? Nope.
Yes, he is actually trying to pretend that Israel doesn't pay influencers to disseminate propaganda. It is absolutely true.
No, that's wrong. They don't get paid to disseminate propaganda. Pro-Israel messaging. That's different than propaganda. Whether or not they are sharing misleading information, that would be a different claim. Netanyahu admits using social media as weapon to influence U.S. opinion amid Gaza genocide. So this is obviously a partisan title written by someone who believes the determination of genocide has been met, or at least the evidence supports that determination. By the way, I've been going a lot through Norm Finkelstein, who is also spreading misinformation, saying that the ICJ determined that it's plausible that a genocide has been committed in Gaza. That is misinformation. That's not true. So don't believe that. The determination had to do with the plausibility relating to that Gazans and Palestinian rights were at risk related to the category of genocide. Not that it's plausible that genocide has occurred, but that enforced the ICJ's determination that they should be sending some information to Israel, that they should be making every attempt to avoid genocide in Gaza.
Trivial common knowledge that Israel does this.
We have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are in social media. We have to fight back. How do we fight back?
I really appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much. From what I've seen, you try to be objective. Thank you for that. Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat.
Our influencers?
Yes, they fight with their weaponized influencers on social media, says Bibi himself. Is actually trying to pretend that Israel doesn't pay influencers to disseminate propaganda. It is absolutely trivial common knowledge that Israel does this.
We have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are in social media. We have to fight back. How do we fight back? are influencers.
Yes, they fight with their weaponized influencers on social media, says Bibi himself. The most recent incarnation of this activity is called the Esther Project, financed through Bridges Partners LLC, where influencers are paid up to $7,000 per post to promote Hasbro narratives. As you just saw, Bibi
That $7,000 is a estimate people put together, and we covered this in the original fact check, which, by the way, let me pull that up. I should be able to search here, right? 7,000. Yeah, anyways, that number, it's not extremely important, but that number is an estimate. But we're going to adjudicate it anyway, because that's what we do. But based off my memory alone, that is an estimate. It's not an actual figure. Okay. But we will adjudicate that again.
has publicly admitted this, describing social media as the most important weapon, acknowledging that it's the reason they arranged for a Zionist takeover of TikTok, which we talked about in the other video. This has been going on well before October 7th, so you bet your ass it was happening with the greatest intensity immediately after October 7th, since that was the most crucial period for manufacturing consent from the American public for a pre-planned genocide America would be funding.
A pre-planned genocide has not been demonstrated, and America is not. Hasn't been demonstrated that it's knowingly supporting a genocide. So this is a misleading claim about the $7,000 per post. There's a factual core behind it. The $7,000 figure is a calculation performed by responsible statecraft, not an explicit rate written in the Israeli contract. Responsible statecraft found roughly $650,000 budgeted through September 2025. The filing showed approximately $97,054 in identifiable administrative project expenditures by that point. Responsible statecraft therefore estimated roughly $650,000 minus $97,054 is equal to $552,946 available for the influencer / production portion. The campaign projected roughly 75 to 90 posts over that period. That roughly equates to either $6,144 per post or $7,373 per post. Responsible statecraft therefore reported that the influencers were likely receiving around $7,000 per post, and expressly acknowledged that the filing did not provide a breakdown between influencer compensation and production costs. All right.
Just 3 days after October 7th, Israel launched an initiative to recruit social media influencers in the United States to defend Israel. A spokesperson said, "Fighting on social networks and influencing international public opinion is critical during wartime. The world must understand that Israel's struggle is one of light against darkness, a life-loving culture versus lowly terrorists."
Yeah, I mean, that would be the perspective that, you know, it makes sense to me that they would want fact checkers out there disseminating misinformation and things like that. But in order to really understand what we would want specificity with regards to what influencers were doing, what were they paid to do that precise thing, or what kind of guidelines were given to them by Israel. So this is information, like when I examine my epistemic standards, I want more information. I want more specific information than these kind of generalized buzzword headlines and summaries.
It's obvious why Israel needs propaganda. The only way to have a country based on legalized racial supremacy is through propaganda, like
he would have to demonstrate that.
Nazi Germany and Jim
We'll see if he demonstrates it.
Apartheid had, that twists the reality of the situation. And Israel actually has its own word for propaganda, which is Hasbara, which translates to explain in Hebrew. In the weeks following October 7th, Israel already had a lot to explain. A number of American influencers got emails offering them $5,000 and brand sponsorships in exchange for doing a single live stream supporting Israel. The email read, "I'm reaching out to you on behalf of a global collective of agencies, influencers."
We are going to look at this. I love being able to screenshot things. By the way, a version 2 of the report we're going through today will be available after we go through our own personal audit like we're doing right now. And our own personal audit will be considered in the version 2 report that will be made public. We want this. Okay.
Influencers and content creators who are coming together to raise awareness about the difficult situation in Israel.
And that's American influencers. What the fuck did you think was happening in Israel? It wasn't just Elon Levy, one of the shitstains Destiny interviewed in his Israel adventures, who pushed the beheaded babies and other bullshit narratives. Hundreds of influencers posting round the clock. As I mentioned in my previous video, I heavily regret not documenting this period with extensive screenshots of all the Hasbara frauds and my efforts in exposing them. I recall that Mazig was one. He's been posting pro-Israel propaganda all day, every day for years. Ella Keenan was another. She was the one who tried to
all day, every day for years.
Smear me on LinkedIn, pretending to have been a viewer of mine who was disappointed with my anti-Semitism.
How does Dave know that she was pretending to be a viewer of his? He seems to be convinced that people who say, you know what, Dave, I was a fan of yours, but I'm going to unsubscribe because of how much misinformation, anti-Semitism, and propaganda there is in this video. Dave seems to have this emotional knee-jerk reaction that is not grounded in empiricism to say that this person is making this up. It seems to be the case whenever I hear Dave talk about comments like that.
The typical copy-paste script, which again, I should have documented. She flat out identifies as a digital marketing professional and content creator, spearheading a diplomacy impact effort, utilizing tens of thousands of social media users. In other words, since October 7th, she has been paid by Israel to organize and disseminate propaganda on social media full-time. She came up with the Hamas is...
Well, that's one framing, right? Dave might see it as propaganda. I'm sure Israel does not see it as propaganda in like the negative sense of the term.
ISIS bullshit that was blasted all over the internet and on my channel, since brand name recognition is important for getting Americans to hate random brown people. Hear it from her if you like.
What we do is, let's call it digital assets that serve the Jewish people in a more strategic manner. We got to close to 3 billion views since the beginning of the war, completely organic. We work with communities.
So Dave's assuming that we're talking about propaganda when they say digital assets. And now she's saying communities. Dave's assuming bot farms is what's being communicated here. So that screenshot that said, I'm reaching out to you on behalf of a global collective of agencies, influencers, and content creators who are coming together to raise awareness about the difficult situation in Israel. The broader email reportedly continued by saying Israel was fighting both Hamas and a battle to, quote, tell the story to the world, offered a library of explainer videos, and encouraged hashtags such as Hamas is ISIS and stand with Israel. What it proves, it is good evidence that a coordinated pro-Israel influencer outreach campaign existed in October 2023. It is also fair to call it an advocacy/public relations campaign. The forum itself says it used media and public awareness campaigns to advocate internationally for the hostages. But it does not by itself establish that the Israeli government authored the email, the Israeli government paid the recipients. Recipients were offered $1,000, $5,000, or $7,000 per post. This email was part of a government disinformation operation. Everyone named or approached actually participated. And it does not by itself establish that the, quote, global collective was secretly controlled by Israel's government. This is a second genuinely government-funded influencer campaign, but it is different. This is where Dave's presentation risks conflating two separate things. The screenshot is from October 2023. The Bridges Partners, quote, Esther project that we were just discussing was contracted in June 2025 and disclosed under FARA in September 2025. That later campaign really was tied to the government of Israel / Ministry of Foreign Affairs through Havas Media, Germany, and really did budget substantial money for, quote, payments for influencers and production. The two should not simply be stitched together as though this 2023 email proves the 2025 paid government program existed in 2023. So calling the email, quote, Israeli regime paying influencers to spread disinformation, as Press TV did, is misleading / unsubstantiated attribution. Press TV reproduced the authentic looking language, but then asserted, without demonstrating the necessary chain of evidence, that it was being sent, quote, by the Israeli regime and its lobbies. Okay, so that's a misleading piece of information there that Dave sent out. Let me grab some more water because my mouth is dry as F. I was sick last night. Like, I got food poisoning last night, but I'm trying to keep it together for today. Someone said, are you seriously claiming Israel doesn't pay influencers? Did you not listen to what I just said? Go back in the video if you have to. What did I just say about that? All right. Make sure you smash that like button, everyone. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're on X, I would really appreciate it if you shared my post so we can get some more people in the room here. There is the link to my post right there. Or on whatever social media platform where you dwell. All right.
Of over 60,000 people around the world that make our content viral, but also help us report anti-Semitic rhetoric and fake news, and therefore take it down, and other actions that do serve the narrative.
So they're targeting misinformation. These are good things,
But
right?
also help us report anti-Semitic rhetoric and fake.
Dave puts up here in writing facts about Israel, as opposed to the real rise of anti-Semitism on the internet that is just easy to demonstrate.
Fake news, and therefore take it down, and other actions that do serve the narrative. Israelis and Jews in general, we tend to respond rather than to set the agenda and initiate. You know, they say genocide, we explain why it's not a genocide. They say apartheid, we explain why it's not, right? So
yeah, I mean, from the Israeli position, of course, they're going to argue that it's not a genocide, right? But the ICJ needs to make that determination.
Offered Hamas is ISIS, and I offered why, and I gave a short 101 on how we can garner attention and traction around that narrative, and that worked. So in 3 to 4 days, it became the most viewed narrative online. It became viral for almost 3 months around the world, in some places even more.
Dave needs to really have a conversation with himself about specificity. Throwing propaganda on the screen is in and of itself propaganda. If you're not giving the specific information, the specific details, you yourself are engaging in propaganda.
And it even got to Biden's speech.
Again, this activity is a full-time job, which means they are paid for it. People don't do things full-time unless it earns them money. Israel has a lot of money, and they spend it on shit like this. And while the prominent, well-paid influencers orchestrated the propaganda, bot farms were also crucial in this endeavor.
Okay, we got a lot there.
Has a lot of money, and they spend it on shit like this. And while the prominent, well-paid influencers orchestrated the propaganda, bot farms...
Dave, you have to demonstrate the precise orchestration of this specific propaganda. You're not being rigorous. You're being low resolution here. Give the specific information.
Were also crucial in this endeavor.
But the most egregious part of Israel's online strategy is its use of fake bot accounts that spam pro-Israel comments and posts online.
My current belief is that nobody has ever demonstrated fake bot accounts or fake bot farms, that those come from Israel. But I'm adjudicating that question further.
Investigation by the Al Jazeera Media Institute revealed hundreds of accounts created shortly after October 7th with a...
I'm going to screenshot this document.
around 50 to 100 followers pretending to be Arabs and constantly posting comments criticizing the Palestinians, regional resistance groups, and Iran.
Thank you so much for the super chat. Irk says, appreciate your strength, patience, and diligence on this difficult topic. I really appreciate the $10. More diapers for my babies. Thank you so much. Patience is a superpower when it comes to good sound epistemology. Good sound epistemology is not a race. It is not a race. Okay. Oh, I want to put this screenshot to the test here. All right. So again, there's an attribution overreach here. So Israel and Israeli actors have demonstrably operated coordinated fake account influence campaigns. The IDF directly admitted a covert fake account campaign in 2021, while Meta and OpenAI independently identified a major Israel origin Stoic network after October 7th. However, Farina overstates the AI Jazeera Media Institute evidence, which personally examined roughly 50 suspicious accounts and did not forensically establish Israeli state control of those specific accounts, nor does the existence of documented Israeli operations prove that the comments Farina personally received were generated by Israeli bot farms. So if you have people pointing at comments and being like, yeah, these are Israeli bot farms, you should ask, okay, how do you know that? It's simple. Basic classical logic demands that question. So, and then this screenshot that outlined newly created accounts, this was the Al Jazeera investigation. So, let's see. So, because it fuses in this document, Shalash's 50 suspicious Arab persona accounts with the independently verified hundreds account Stoic network, and then adds Israeli attribution and, quote, bot automation across the whole combined set. The broader proposition that Israel origin actors have run fake account influence operations is real. The problem is using that established fact to retroactively attribute every suspicious pro-Israel account to Israel without account-specific evidence. So it just gets back to demonstrating your claim. If you're going to call something, you know, an Israeli bot account, if you're believing that, you should first have to demonstrate that. Like, okay.
These accounts would mainly target pages that were popular in the Arab and Muslim world, like Al Jazeera and TRT. Their comments would mainly blame the Palestinians for the destruction they're facing and portray them as
Okay.
as beggars who were ungrateful for the aid they were getting from other Arab countries. These accounts would also start dialogues with each other, where one fake account would post a comment and another fake account would respond, which indicates that they aren't individual accounts, but that they're part of an organized effort. No one took responsibility for this, but Israel has admitted to using bot farms in the past. During Israel's massacre against Gaza in 2021, the Israeli army used bots to promote a hashtag, Gaza Regrets, to try to rally support for Israel's war. And while the military admitted it was using fake accounts and even apologized for it, the Israeli government continues to employ people to defend Israel online and pledge to target teenagers in its next online campaign. Past. During Israel's massacre against Gaza in 2021,
All right. All right, we're getting a bunch of information together here. Okay, so there was a claim that these accounts would mainly target Al Jazeera and a couple other organizations and TRT. The underlying article says that the researcher observed that the accounts, quote, consistently follow major Arab platforms such as Al Jazeera Mubashir, TRT Arabic, and Sky News Arabia, with notable intensity and focus. So on the narrow phrase that these accounts mainly targeted Al Jazeera, TRT, etc., there is some support here. The researcher says she personally tracked around 50 Instagram accounts. She does not provide a quantitative table showing, for example, 70% of their comments were on Al Jazeera, 20% on TRT, etc. Instead, this is her qualitative observation that these accounts followed and commented on those outlets with notable intensity and focus. So let's look at some things that are supported and some things that are not established here. The researcher observed suspicious accounts heavily commenting on Al Jazeera, TRT, Arabic, Sky News, etc. That is supported. Their comments often blamed Hamas/Palestinian resistance /Iran for Gaza's destruction. That is supported as her observation. And then now those specific accounts were proven to be operated by Israel. That is not established. One thing doesn't necessarily lead to the other. The third step remains the problem. So therefore, these specific accounts, these 50 accounts, were Israeli bot accounts. That's an attribution that's not established by the available evidence. Al Jazeera proved Israeli bot farms were targeting Arab media. That's misleading. So an Al Jazeera Media Institute researcher reported that approximately 50 suspicious Instagram accounts she tracked disproportionately followed and commented on major Arab news platforms, including Al Jazeera Mubashir, TRT Arabic, and Sky News Arabia. She observed that on posts concerning Israeli attacks in Gaza, those accounts frequently blamed Palestinian armed groups and Iran. The behavioral evidence supports suspicion of coordinated, inauthentic activity, but the published investigation does not forensically establish Israeli state control of those specific accounts. And then this other screenshot relating to Gaza war times during 2021. what the IDF actually admitted. The IDF said it had set up a, quote, limited number of fake accounts during the 2021 conflict in order to increase exposure. It later called the use of those accounts a mistake and said the tactic had been confined to roughly a 24-hour period. Okay. Reporting based on Haaretz's investigation found that soldiers operated accounts on platforms including Twitter and Facebook. One fake persona, quote, Moshe Vaknin, tweeted 27 times in 3 hours and posted imagery of Israeli strikes with the Hebrew hashtag /Gaza regrets. Another fake Facebook persona, quote, Dana Locke, posted IDF strike videos. The objective was primarily domestic influence. The fake accounts targeted Israeli users, especially right-wing audiences, to increase enthusiasm for the IDF's military performance, after officials reportedly felt Israelis were more impressed by Hamas rocket salvos than by Israeli battlefield achievements. If I sound kind of half dead today, it's because I got food poisoning yesterday, and I was up all night dealing with that. Feeling a little bit better today, but I've only been able to get some like fruit down, so yeah. Fun times. Okay.
The Israeli army used bots to promote a hashtag, Gaza regrets, to try to rally support for Israel's war.
Correct.
And while the military admitted it was using fake accounts and even apologized for it, the Israeli government continues to employ people to defend Israel online and pledged to target teenagers in its next online campaign.
Plans to target teenagers. High school students. Let's see if that's true. All right. Okay. Got a few notifications on Discord here. Let me take a quick look. All right. Okay, that's fine. Okay, cool. Very short bathroom break. Give me literally 2 seconds and we'll keep going. All right, slow and steady wins the race. Hope everyone's having a good day. We are going to look at whether or not Israel actually enlisted high school students or a student. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate the super chat. It says, get better soon. Thank you so much. I wanted to come on and do this today. We're not going to get anywhere close through the entire video today. This is going to be a multi-part series. But yeah. We'll do our best.
And yet, despite all of this effort, public opinion of Israel is so firmly in the fucking toilet that Israel has quintupled down on this strategy and has approved an astronomical record budget of $730 million for Hasbara in 2026.
Go back.
Despite all of this effort, public opinion of Israel is so firmly in the fucking toilet that Israel has
Okay. Take a look at that as well. So the factual core is real. That high school students are enlisted. But let's see. What is supported is that Israel's latest Hasbara scheme. Oh, sorry, but the screenshot says something stronger. So what is supported is Israel enlisted / recruited high school students to conduct online public diplomacy and advocate for Israel. This is supported with high confidence. But the screenshot says something stronger. Quote, Israel's latest Hasbara scheme enlists high school students as trolls against Palestine. The headline comes from Mint Press News, not from the Israeli government. Quote, trolls is editorial language. We can't seem to find evidence in the government documents instructing students to create fake identities, impersonate Palestinians, harass critics, spam people, deceive users about who they are, operate automated bots, engage in coordinated abusive trolling. Instead, the official documents describe public diplomacy, social media advocacy, responding to anti-Israel messaging and disinformation, promoting Israeli interests, and developing pro-Israel initiatives. Quote, against Palestine is also an overstatement here. The curriculum did include the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Israel's international image, countering campaigns regarded as hostile or delegitimizing, social media as a means of communicating with young people abroad, and contemporary descriptions said the program would respond to groups with, quote, extreme ideologies against the state of Israel and anti-Semitism. So where's the misinformation here? That Israel recruited teenagers as literal online trolls, that is not established. So that would be some misinformation here. Students were instructed to create fake accounts or bots. That's not established. The official mission was simply against Palestine. That's a misleading oversimplification. All right. So
quintupled down on this strategy and has approved.
oh yeah, I wanted to look at this as well. $730 million. Okay, we'll look into this. Excellent.
Approved an astronomical record budget of $730 million for Hasbara in 2026. Nearly $1 billion courtesy of Havas Media Group to convince people on social media that Israel isn't doing genocide. So I'm sorry, Destiny, you're either lying about not getting
That's motive attribution. How does he know that that's the motive, to convince people that they're not committing genocide?
a slice of that, or you're a clueless asshat with no fucking idea what's happening, since Israel has been paying influencers unthinkable sums of money for many, many years. You might just be the only moron shilling for Israel for free, purely despite Hassan, which is mind-blowing. Fucking hell, that was only the first 10 seconds. What could possibly be next? They watched their land being usurped and given to settlers while
The bullshit map. The map. Not the map.
not the map that illustrates how well over half of Palestine was taken to form Israel, and then most of what they were left with has been slowly
Travis, you are muted on stream.
Oh, thanks, Don Don. So we're going to adjudicate this map again. This is a misleading map. Sorry, one sec. I want to get the whole thing. Sorry, folks. I muted myself to take a bite of plantano. So the core budget, by the way, of the $730 million for public diplomacy, that is real, but Dave's framing materially overstates what the evidence establishes. He does this so much, at least with regards to this issue. Did Israel approve roughly $730 million for public diplomacy in 2026? True. High confidence. Was that almost 5 times the previous year's budget? Mostly true. Yes. Substantially accurate. Was the 2025 budget already about 20 times pre-war spending? That's supported. Is the entire $730 million budget a, quote, social media propaganda budget? No, this is where the framing becomes misleading. The $730 million is a broad public diplomacy allocation. Documented public diplomacy expenditures include things like international advertising, social media campaigns, influencer programs, foreign delegation, pastors and religious outreach, university outreach, media monitoring, a foreign ministry public diplomacy unit, communications infrastructure, and advocacy partnerships and contractors. For example, reporting on the previous budget identified roughly $50 million in international social media advertising, around $40 million for hundreds of foreign delegates, a media monitoring operation, evangelical campaigns, influencer projects, and other initiatives. So the screenshots phrase an unprecedented investment in social media propaganda is not accurate. It's misleading. Much more accurate formulation is Israel made an unprecedented investment in public diplomacy, of which digital advertising, social media, and influencer outreach are important components. Also, this idea that Israel leads to Havas contractual chain to subcontractors. Oh wait, sorry. Let me read this. So, quote, so the FARA paperwork makes the direction of the relationship extremely clear. Bridges Partners identifies its foreign principal as, quote, Government of Israel through Havas Media Group Germany. And the filing records Bridges receiving approximately $200,000 as an advance for campaign expenses from the government of Israel through Havas. In other words, Israel leads to Havas / contractual chain, leads to subcontractors not. Havas gives Israel $730 million. Havas was not the benefactor supplying Israel's national Hasbara budget. So the verdict is, Dave's framing here is just false. It's misinformation. Okay. Okay, let's do the map next. What up, everyone? Make sure you take 1 itty bitty second to smash that like button. Really appreciate it. We're on to the map again. The very flawed, misleading map.
Stolen from them through settlements that are illegal under international law. How dare I use a map to illustrate apartheid and ethnic cleansing? Great rebuttal.
Oh yeah, I promised some other dirt on this guy. As if the genocide denial wasn't enough, here's a few other tips. Oh! Can we... Pedophile. Let's go!
Here he is advocating for white nationalists murdering BLM protesters.
Oh yeah, the greatest hits! IMAX it up, let's go!
Yes, the greatest hits, also known as a long list of absolutely heinous and disgusting shit you've said.
All right, let's look at the problems with this map. Let me pull up the map so you guys can see it. All right. So this map is materially misleading. It's wrong to call the whole thing simply fake. The 1917 panel is the first major problem. The panel that's furthest left. The entire area is colored Palestinian land. In 1917, there was no sovereign Palestinian state controlling this territory. At the beginning of 1917, the territory that later became mandatory Palestine was part of the Ottoman Empire, divided among Ottoman administrative units. After the Ottoman defeat it came under British military administration. The League of Nations mandate was subsequently established in 1922. The mandate itself explicitly described Palestine as territory that had, quote, formerly belonged to the Turkish Empire. But one should not overcorrect this in the opposite direction, saying, quote, there was no Palestine and therefore no Palestine or no Palestinian land. That would be misleading. Palestine was a geographic designation. Palestinian Arab communities were overwhelmingly present, and Arabs held extensive private, communal, customary, and cultivation rights. The problem is that the map never tells us what, quote, Palestinian land means. If it means territory under Palestinian sovereign control, that would be false. If it means the geographic territory of Palestine predominantly inhabited and used by Palestinian Arabs, much more defensible. If it means every square meter was privately owned by Palestinians, that's definitively false. So already the first panel introduces an ambiguous category. By the way, everyone, thank you so much for being here. If we could get the stream up to 300 viewers watching, that would be fantastic. A way you can help with that is share this live stream, smash that like button. I will respond to every and all super chats. I really appreciate them. They help pay for diapers for my son and daughter, my little ones. Now we get to the 1946 panel, which is the next panel. The 1946 panel commits a major ownership category error. The second panel shows scattered white areas as, quote, Jewish land, and effectively treats everything else as, quote, Palestinian land. The white patches have a genuine historical basis. British mandatory authorities actually mapped land in Jewish possession, and the UN retained maps showing those holdings. A UN map records 1,802,386 dunhams in Jewish possession by June 30th, 1947. But non-Jewish owned land is not equal to automatically Palestinian privately owned land. So official mandate era statistics distinguishes at least Arab owned, Jewish owned, public/state owned, quote, other ownership, large areas of the Negev whose precise ownership status had not been settled. The 1945 village statistic classified the total land approximately as 48.5% Arab, 5.67% Jewish, 5.67% public, and 40.16% unassigned uncultivable Beersheba Negev land. So, verdict on the 1946 panel, partly based on real Jewish landholding geography, but misleadingly labels essentially all non-Jewish land, quote, Palestinian land. It also obscures an important fact favorable to the Palestinian historical argument. Interestingly, you don't need this misleading map to demonstrate the enormous asymmetry in land ownership. Jewish organizations / private Jewish owners possessed only about 6 to 7% of mandatory Palestine immediately before partition. The UN itself produced maps significantly identifying Jewish possession. So there's a legitimate historical point here. The proposed Jewish state's territorial allocation was dramatically larger than the amount of land actually owned by Jews. That is true. The error comes from pretending the inverse necessarily follows. Jews own 7%, therefore Palestinians privately owned 93%. That depends heavily on how public, communal, state domain, and unresolved Negev land is classified. Thank you so much for the super chat. From Beastman, could you come to your own conclusions of, quote, is it a genocide by doing an analysis of Israel's actions and leaders' statements versus qualifications for genocide? No, I don't think you can come to a well-reasoned, high-resolution epistemic conclusion of that, because you don't have access to the counter evidence that Israel will be providing at the ICJ trial, the ICJ adjudication. It would be like not waiting to hear what the OJ defense has to say about where OJ was, about all of the details that might make the picture of genocide seem bleak, seem that there's actually answers, and this wasn't intentional in this case. It was actually there's a reasonable explanation for it, even though maybe a war crime has been committed. But no. So my answer is no. No, because you don't have access to their legal argumentation, their counter evidence. It's a good question, though. I'll grant you that. It's a really good question. Thank you so much for the super chat. The 1947 panel abruptly changes the meaning of the colors. That's a problem. This is probably the single biggest methodological defect in the entire graphic. Let's look at what happens. So in 1946, color means something approximating ownership/possession. Then in the 1947 panel, color suddenly means proposed sovereignty under UN Resolution 181. Those are completely different quantities. The UN proposed approximately 56.4% for a Jewish state, approximately 42.9% for an Arab state, approximately 0.7% for internationally administered Jerusalem. It was a proposal for political partition, not a transfer of private title. Resolution 181 envisaged an Arab state, Jewish state, and internationally administered Jerusalem. So if an Arab farmer owned property located inside the proposed Jewish state, Resolution 181 did not magically transform his private property into Jewish-owned property. Likewise, Jewish-owned land inside the proposed Arab state did not cease being Jewish-owned. The UN even published a map showing both variables simultaneously, the proposed partition boundaries and land in Jewish possession, precisely because they are different concepts. The infographic suppresses that distinction. So that's a major error with the map. The visual jump from 7% Jewish ownership to 56%, quote, Jewish state is therefore rhetorically powerful, but analytically misleading. The viewer sees, and this is why we need to do this kind of fact checking, because the viewers are the ones that are getting misled here by Dave. So the viewer sees 1946 tiny white dots, followed by 1947 more than half the territory white. What's going on here? The natural visual inference is, quote, Jews owned only these tiny patches, and then the UN gave them all this Palestinian-owned land. What the heck, dude? There's an important truth inside that argument. The proposed Jewish state was much larger than Jewish privately held land, but political partition is not equivalent to transferring every private parcel within the boundary to Jewish ownership. The Jewish state proposed by UNSCOP would also have contained a very large Arab population. UNSCOP estimated proposed Jewish state 498,000 Jews, 407,000 Arabs/others, plus roughly 90,000 Bedouins. So the proposed Jewish state would initially have been very close to demographically mixed. The infograph gives you no indication of that. This infograph is a big piece of misinformation. It was in Dave's original video. He's using it again. He's doubling down. He probably didn't watch my rigorous fact check of this. We're doing the same thing again here for the sake of this video. The 1947 panel also leaves Jerusalem insufficiently clear. UN Resolution 181 did not simply divide everything between Palestinians and Jews. Jerusalem and its surrounding area were supposed to be a corpus separatum under a special international UN regime. The map's gray/white treatment makes it difficult to understand visually. A serious historical map needs 3 categories: Arab state, Jewish state, international Jerusalem, not merely the visual impression of land passing between 2 ethnic owners. Ooh, I need an energy bar or an energy drink or something today. The 1948 panel switches variables again. Now the map moves from 1947 proposed sovereignty. Why am I not able to see my bottom window here? That's weird. The map moves from 1947 proposed sovereignty to 1948/49 military and political control after the war and the 1949 armistice. Israel controlled roughly 78% of former mandatory Palestine. Jordan controlled the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Egypt controlled the Gaza Strip. That is real. That is real. And Israel absolutely did end the war, controlling substantially more territory than the UN had allotted to the proposed Jewish state. But the green remainder was not a sovereign Palestinian state. It consisted principally of West Bank to Jordanian control, Gaza to Egyptian control. The map simply labels those areas, quote, Palestinian land. Again, that can make sense geographically or nationally, but it does not accurately describe political control. The map skips the crucial 1949 to 1967 political reality. This omission matters because of the story the graphic tells. The sequence visually suggests Palestinian control, shrinking Palestinian control, Israeli control. But between 1949 and June 1967, the West Bank was administered by Jordan and later annexed by Jordan. Gaza was administered by Egypt. There were no independent Palestinian state exercising sovereignty over those areas. That does not negate Palestinian national claims to them, but it means Palestinian land cannot consistently mean, quote, Palestinian governmental control throughout this infographic. The 1967 panel is actually one of the strongest panels. The 5th panel distinguishes Israel proper from occupied territory. That is broadly correct. But even here, the map omits the distinction between military control and sovereign title, so there's still an issue there, but not as glaring of an issue. The 1967 to 2017 panel is perhaps the most visually misleading one. The final panel shows tiny fragmented green islands labeled, quote, Palestinian land, surrounded by Israeli-controlled land, including the occupied territory. There is a real phenomena behind this image. West Bank territorial fragmentation is genuine. Under Oslo II, the West Bank was divided into Area A, Palestinian Civil and Internal Security Authority, Area B, Palestinian Civil Authority, but significant Israeli Security Authority, and Area C, Israeli Civil/Security Administration. By the end of the Oslo redeployments, approximately 17 to 18% Area B, 23 to 24% of Area B, 59 to 60% Area C of the West Bank. The patchwork character of Area A and B is real. Israel also exercises enormous control through Area C settlements, roads, checkpoints, military zones, the separation barrier, border controls, movement permits, security operations. So the fragmentation narrative itself is not fabricated, but calling the green fragments, quote, Palestinian land is misleading because the Oslo categories concern administrative/security jurisdiction, not ownership. A Palestinian may privately own land in Area C. An Israeli settler may occupy/use land within territory internationally regarded as occupied. Quote, who administers it and, quote, who owns the parcel are different questions. Area B makes the binary coloring especially problematic. Area B illustrates why a two-color map cannot adequately represent the situation. In Area B, the Palestinian Authority exercises civilian governance. Israel retains overriding security responsibilities/powers under the Oslo arrangement. So is Area B, quote, Palestinian controlled or, quote, Israeli controlled? Both descriptions capture part of the institutional arrangement. A binary white/green map necessarily conceals that. Oh boy. Gaza creates another classification problem. So, quote, Israel-controlled Gaza can be defensible under a broader legal concept of effective external control, but, quote, Israel directly administered Gaza internally in 2017 would be false. Again, the map doesn't tell you which concept it means. Quote, Palestinian land and Israeli-controlled land aren't even mutually exclusive categories. Land can simultaneously be privately owned by a Palestinian while being under Israeli military/security control and located within occupied Palestinian territory. Those are three separate attributes. The map forces them into one binary variable. So to me, this map is a big fat piece of misinformation. It shouldn't be used. It shouldn't be distributed. Even though there's some kernels of truth in this, it seems to be a piece of propaganda used by people who are pro-Palestine. I've seen it passed around in those circles to demonstrate the great Jewish takeover by using two colors. So the map conflates 5 entirely different concepts. Across 6 images, the graphic alternates among private ownership. Is that the same thing? No. Ethnic national possession. Is that the same thing? No. Sovereignty? No. Military occupation/control? No. Civil security administration? No. Yet all are communicated with the same shrinking green shape. All right. So yeah, it's not an accurate map. It's a misleading map. I see it being used for propaganda purposes. It shouldn't be used. All right. Where are we at for time here? 2 hours? All right. It's weird that I can't. Oh, there we go.
Glad to see you're
By the way, it's taken us 2 hours to get through 13 minutes and 51 seconds.
as amused by it as we are. And thus,
I am not feeling too hot today because I had food poisoning yesterday. but I'm trying to go as long as I can today.
Ends this stinger intro. Packed to the brim with ponage, as you can see. Yes, that really was all he could scrape together to front load this fucking train wreck. But let's comb through the rest to really drive home how pathetic this was.
I think this guy got big mad that I called him anti-Semitic. Which, the video that he made criticizing that Avi Loeb dude, it absolutely was fucking weird as fuck.
No, my videos exposing Avi Loeb are not anti-Semitic. He's just on the anti-Zionism equals anti-Semitism train that I demolished.
Go to Avi Loeb. Can't remember where it is. Avi Loeb. Okay. We're going to take a look at that. The Avi Loeb claims. Okay. All right. We can get this poopy map off the screen now. All right. We're going to adjudicate that bit on Avi Loeb.
In my video he's about to react to. So let's see how he handles that when he gets there.
Whether he is being paid by Israel or is genuinely just dumb enough to have fallen for Israeli propaganda and is in too deep now to admit it, I can't say. But he recently decided to poke the hornet's nest by doing a particularly slanderous live stream about me, accusing me of being a Jew
Slanderous?
hating neo-Nazi. It's called Professor Dave Goes...
Okay, I don't think I ever accused him of being a neo-Nazi. I'm just pointing out that the rhetoric he's using is neo-Nazi rhetoric. The deception and self-victimization are like...
Yes, this was Dave misread this. Destiny was saying that this is anti or neo-Nazi rhetoric. He didn't call Dave a neo-Nazi. He might actually call Dave a neo-Nazi in his reaction video. I can't quite remember, but in the video Dave's referring to, Destiny's pointing at some stuff from Dave that seems like to Destiny neo-Nazi rhetoric, or he says this is neo-Nazism right here. He didn't say Dave is a neo-Nazi. Different things, right? Claiming someone to be a neo-Nazi is not the same as saying, I think some of your rhetoric is neo-Nazi like, or is neo-Nazi rhetoric.
Like the two big tenets of like neo-Nazi criticism, but I don't think he's a neo-Nazi. I think he's a fucking tanky. Or I don't even think he's a tanky, actually. He's just mind-fucked on Israel-Palestine, like the entire fucking United States is, I guess, or the world is.
I'm a tanky now. Yes, I'm constantly glazing Stalin, or whatever the fuck tanky even means. You really just talk completely out of your ass at all times, huh? Anyway, yeah, you said I used Nazi rhetoric, which is essentially calling me a Nazi, even though pointing out...
No, it's not essentially calling you a Nazi, Dave. But it sounds like Dave is softening his language, because I believe in the first video he said, he's literally calling me a neo-Nazi. So it sounds like there's a softening of language there for Dave.
out how Israel lies and plays the victim is just acknowledging reality like a fucking adult. And your thumbnail implied that I hate all Jews, which was kind of the main thing with the Nazis. So you were calling me a Nazi, which is slander, and that is why I decided to expose you as a worthless Zionist piece of shit. You brought
So I don't think he called you a Nazi. So Dave said that's because of that thumbnail and some of that stuff. That's why I decided to expose you. Let's hear that again.
with the Nazis. So you were calling me a Nazi, which is slander, and that is why I decided to expose you as a worthless Zionist piece of shit. You
A worthless Zionist piece of shit. But even if Dave, if that section wouldn't have existed where Destiny is pointing out what he sees to be neo-Nazi rhetoric, wouldn't Destiny still, by Dave's definition, still be a neo-Nazi piece of shit? So wouldn't he? So he's saying this triggered him into making this video, but surely Dave would think that it was virtuous to make anyway, even absent that neo-Nazi claim.
brought this on yourself. Remember that.
Most of what you're hearing about Hamas is fabricated, and whatever isn't doesn't amount to 0.1% of what Israel has done to Palestine over the past 75 years. Get your priorities straight. They're under a military occupation. The radicalization is Israel's fault. Ha! Minimize non-combatant casualties? Holy fuck, you are naive. Israel routinely does what Hamas did. They did it today. Who's talking about it? Fucking nobody.
So I did a fact check of Destiny's reaction video to Dave's video. That exists on the channel here if you want to find it. I believe it's called Destiny, quote, Destiny loves genocide. I believe that's video number 4, where I react to Destiny's reaction, and I offer some critiques to Destiny there as well.
Planned evil. They have a military occupation of Palestine. Just stop being ridiculous. This is October 10th. This guy is fucking unhinged. I don't know how many fucking tweets I've archived here, but holy shit.
Yeah, this is a section where he just reads old tweets of mine that Canary Mission captured in a cartoonish, angry voice and doesn't even attempt to respond to them. It's really pathetic. Israel does spread propaganda about Hamas. The few hundred people they killed on October 7th don't even remotely hold a candle to the tens of thousands Israel slaughtered prior or the hundreds of thousands since. And
Well, I'm going to have to do this again then. Looks like there's going to be a lot of repeats. Oh, we got some information relating to Dave and Avi Loeb here. I will respond to any super chats if anyone has a question or a claim that they want me to adjudicate. I was hoping to get to the first section on Dave's claims about myself today. Hopefully we can make it there. Okay, with regards to Avi Loeb, and this is relating to Dave's history with regards to Avi Loeb. Dave has said, Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews like you are European/not Semites. That is anti-Semitic. Dave says, with regards to Avi Loeb, Jewish ancestry used to invalidate Middle Eastern connection. That is anti-Semitic radicalization. Secret genetic testing/concealment theory. Anti-Semitic trope convergent. All of this very in great detail will be included on version 2 of our report. Zionist tactics equal gaslighting plus playing the victim. There's a strong trope concern here, not necessarily anti-Semitic, but there's a nod here to playing the victim, which is connected to anti-Semitic tropes. Quote, perpetual victim complex, disgusting Zionist frauds like him, typical Zionist fraud. That's anti-Semitic trope convergent. So some people don't know this about anti-Semitism. They will think that because Zionist is mentioned as one of the targets, a Jew is being targeted here. And for example, if you go to New York City and you hunt around to track down someone who looks like they're a Jew, and you say, hey, guess what? I really wish that Hitler and the Nazis would have eradicated more of you Zionists during World War II. That's anti-Semitic. Just because you say Zionist doesn't mean it can't be anti-Semitic. This is a big piece of misinformation that's traveling around the internet. You need to look at the JDA Nexus requirements for anti-Semitism. You need to learn what anti-Semitism means from an academic perspective, not just, a cherry-picked, made-up, manufactured definition that someone is trying to use to shield them from being given the anti-Semitism label or anti-Semitic label. Quote, perpetual victim complex, disgusting Zionist frauds like him. Typical Zionist fraud, we just looked at that. Quote, Zionists take over CBS, immediately host the Zionist fraud. He's referencing, and this is from the original video, he's referencing Avi Loeb here. This is a media control trope. This is anti-Semitic. So Zionist taking over CBS, targeting Zionists, immediately hosts the Zionist fraud. He's targeting someone who is a Jew. Ooh, my system is a little bit frozen up here. You can just, honey, thank you. Oh, my wife is the best. She brought me a care package. Oh boy. Thanks for being with me, everybody. So yeah, there's a lot of evidence from that video, Dave's original video titled Destiny Loves Genocide. Ooh, a little frozen up here. Am I frozen for you guys? Hopefully not. Okay. Might have gone a bit frozen there. Where's my correct window? There we go. Okay. So we also just did a quick fact check since Dave brought up this tweet again. The screenshot of Dave is authentic. This is where he's saying, oh, you guys can see it on the screen. Oh, yeah, you can. Quote, most of what you're hearing about Hamas is fabricated, unsupported, sweeping generalization, atrocity minimization. Quote, whatever isn't doesn't amount to 0.1% of what Israel has done to Palestine over the past 75 years. That is unsupported pseudo quantification, false under a natural fatality / atrocity reading. He says the radicalization is Israel's fault. That's materially overstated. Monocausal attribution. There will be a lot more information in the report related to that particular screenshot.
And they are indeed the product of an extended brutal military occupation, which has specifically been funded and supported by Netanyahu since their inception. People who are brutally oppressed and subjugated for decades become radicalized against their oppressors. It's not that weird. Then for the next one, it's angry voice and doesn't even attempt to respond to them. It's really pathetic. Israel does spread propaganda about Hamas. The few hundred people they killed on October 7th don't even remotely hold a candle to the tens of thousands Israel slaughtered prior or the hundreds of thousands since. And they are indeed the product of an extended brutal military occupation, which has specifically been funded and supported by Netanyahu since their inception. People who are brutally oppressed and subjugated for decades become radicalized against their oppressors. It's not that weird. Then for the next one, it's obviously me pushing back on some paid Hasbara brutally oppressed and subjugated for decades become radicalized against their oppressors. It's not that weird. October 7th don't even remotely hold a candle to the tens of thousands Israel slaughtered prior or the hundreds of thousands since. And they are indeed the product of an extended brutal military occupation, which has specifically been funded
Damn, I was muted for that whole thing. Sorry. Any of you are also capable and able to do your own fact checking. If you disagree with anything, any of my findings, any of my fact checking, please send me that information so we can take a look at it. If you are in fact correct about the facts and I'm wrong, then yeah, I will change that information in the audit. Yes, of course. So Dave is presenting a real underlying scandal, but the caption, quote, "Even Hamas is funded by Bibi," is too compressed and materially misleading if taken literally. So let's look. Dave's caption, quote, "Even Hamas is funded by Bibi." This needs its own verdict. There are at least three possible meanings, meaning one, Bibi personally or the Israeli treasury sent its own $35 million every month to Hamas. That is false and misleading. The money principally came from Qatar. The money principally came from Qatar. That is why Novik's actual sentence says Netanyahu arranged for Hamas to receive money from Qatar. This idea that Netanyahu intentionally financed Hamas's military terrorism because he wanted Hamas to attack Israel, that of course is not established. All right.
Funded and supported by Netanyahu since their inception. People who are brutally oppressed and subjugated for decades become radicalized against their oppressors. It's not that weird. Then for the next one, it's obviously me pushing back on some paid Hasbara operative.
Paid Hasbara operative. Dave says it's obvious that this is a paid Hasbara operative. I don't suspect he's going to provide any evidence as to why he knows that is the case here. All right, we're going to look into that one.
Lying to the whole internet about how Israel does everything it can to minimize civilian casualties, when in fact Israel specifically targets civilians at all times. This was
No, not at all times. Not at all times, Dave. You should provide the civilian data that's available that is likely going to be investigated by Israel and perhaps the ICC with regards to whether it constitutes a war crime. But you can't just say at all times. That's propaganda. That's misinformation.
It was during the first blatant carpet bombing campaign early in the genocide, when they were just destroying entire city blocks with zero regard for who they killed. Because
zero regard for who they killed needs to be demonstrated. You can't just look at scary pictures like this, which are awful, by the way. If this is a legitimate picture, you can't just look at that and determine from that, you know, there was no discretion. We actually should be following the evidence, following professional expert level analysis of the evidence, not just making grand sweeping claims like that.
Already knew back then that this was what they had in mind, which is easily confirmed by looking at the sea of rubble that is Gaza today. Glad to see that Destiny has intelligent responses to these obvious facts and isn't just humiliating himself with empty pageantry.
Well, we're going to have to see. And I agree with a bit of a critique here. Like when Destiny is analyzing a video like this, he should stop, slow down, do the epistemically responsible thing and go through these claims. He shouldn't just hand wave them away as all bullshit. He should put in the work. I know he does that in some cases, and also during the course of this particular video response that he did for Dave's original video. He did do that. But I'm saying doing it meticulously is I think important education to spread through your audience.
But as long as we're looking at old tweets, since he seems to think that mine are so unhinged and indefensible, maybe we should play a quick round of Defend That Tweet, don't you think? I just defended these two quite easily, now it's Destiny's turn. Okay, so this user named Babygirl said to Steven, ignoring a safe word and not stopping when someone asks is ignoring consent and is rape. Go fuck yourself. Wow, it sounds like Destiny was implying that if you're having sex with someone and they ask you to stop.
But we don't say Destiny's response, Dave. Maybe Dave will provide it here. If he's just showing that, I mean, yikes. Just looking at another one of Dave's tweet where he said, "Ha ha ha! Minimize non-combatant casualties. Holy fuck, you are naive," etc. There was a claim Israel routinely does what Hamas does. That's materially misleading. False equivalence as naturally understood. So the question is Israel, flying in on parachutes and going in and slaughtering innocent women, children, taking hostages, sexually assaulting in this kind of invasion wave? Someone says, who's talking about it? Fucking nobody. That was false at that time of that tweet. Pre-planned evil, question mark. Contradicted by subsequent investigations. October 7th was premeditated.
You totally don't have to.
Oh, I need to look at this. See when this tweet is. Someone by the name of Andon Nichelle. By the way, everyone, I will be fact checking every single thing in Dave's video. There, some people have said that there was some docking. There's some major docking with Dave and Benjamin Netanyahu in this video. No, doxing in this video. I will be also fact checking and adjudicating the doxing as well, because I think it's important that if this has actually occurred, that Dave is held accountable for it and that he just can't delete the video if things get heavy. I want to make sure we have it on the full record. Okay. Looks like Link is in the Shadow Temple now, or like the desert place. All right. What else you got, Davey boy?
And it's not rape to continue fucking them while they scream no repeatedly. That's
ignoring a safe word and not stopping when someone asks is ignoring consent and is rape. Yeah, I would say that's true. Do we know this happened though?
That's pretty messed up. But hang on, maybe she misunderstood him. I bet he's gonna reply and clear everything up. Kill yourself, you
Kill yourself, you effing C word. I hope you get graped with a fucking shovel until you bleed out your fucking vag and die holy. I wonder what the context of this situation is. That is a brutal response. Brutal.
You fucking cunt. I hope you get raped with a fucking shovel until you bleed out your fucking vag and die holy. Wow, Steven, that's pretty graphic and uncalled for. But since I had a chance to explain my tweets that you mocked.
Yeah, if this is an authentic tweet, that's a very bad ethical posture from Stephen Bonnell. It doesn't matter at all.
Until you bleed out your fucking vag.
Don. Yeah. Yeah, so this is a bad ethical posture from Stephen if he has actually said this. It's a very bad thing to say. If this person's just making shit up, then, I would target that. If it's true that there was a miscommunication or that there was an assault occurred here, then Stephen has to wear that responsibility.
without actually saying anything, it's only fair that we give you the same chance. So, Steven, defend that tweet!
Well, we should wait to see what Steven has to say about that tweet. I have said some terrible things on the internet as well. If you dig deep, if you go back far enough, you're going to find some egregious things I've said that I will point to and say, I really hate that I said that, and that was an infantile thing to say, etc., or a bad, wrongful thing to say.
Oh, I'm sorry, Steven, that's not gonna cut it. I guess your tweet
Dave's game show motif here is creative. It's kind of funny.
is just totally fucking indefensible, and you're a disgusting monster with zero regard for female bodily autonomy, huh? I guess combing through old tweets of mine wasn't such a great idea, now was it? Let's get back to the video, big guy.
A fabrication of 40 beheaded babies, which Joe Biden himself publicly claimed to have seen photographs.
He said he saw photographs of beheaded babies. He shouldn't have said this. I don't know where. He might have actually seen it, though. But this claim was not originated by Israel. It was I think it was a, somebody said Channel 4. Is that a French outlet that fucked up and spread this claim? But
maybe he saw them? No, he didn't, because it doesn't exist. You're simultaneously admitting that this wasn't true and then speculating as to whether Biden actually saw it? What? Biden...
That's a correct fact check by Dave. Like, you don't want to say, maybe he did see it. I think the record is quite clear that this was all fabricated, and it was there was a reporter that conflated some things that she was hearing from civilians and soldiers, and this all got mashed together and became this beheaded babies story. Let's see. But yeah, there's no good reason to believe that Biden ever saw any picture of beheaded babies. Why he said he did, I don't know. All right, we looked at this baby girl tweet. The screenshot, obviously, that we just looked at of Steven should not be treated as proof that the allegation is true. It is evidence that an accusation was made. The consent principle stated in the tweet is substantively correct, but the factual allegation against Stephen Bonnell remains unverified on the materials we could confirm here. So we'll keep an eye out and see if Stephen responds to them. But yeah, this beheaded babies thing was fabricated.
Biden said it because Bibi asked him to. It's clear.
Now we have to look. Did Bibi ask Joe Biden? All right. Thanks for hanging in there, folks. Your energy gives me energy. Oh, nice. Yeah, it sounds like Steven will be covering this on his own stream, which is cool. So this claim that Biden's beheaded children statement originated partly from claims made by Benjamin Netanyahu's office, that is unsupported. There's no evidence found of such a request. Netanyahu. Oh, wait a second here. Netanyahu asked Biden to mention beheaded babies. That's unsupported. Biden's beheaded children statement originated partly from claims made by Netanyahu. That is supported. Netanyahu personally told Biden that babies had been beheaded. That is not supported by the released call record. Biden personally saw confirmed photographs of beheaded children before making his October 11th statement. False. His own White House clarified that he had not. So yeah, this claim that Netanyahu personally told Biden that babies had been beheaded, that is not supported.
Clear as fucking day. Destiny is pretending that some French news network made up this claim. It was being pushed by every single Israeli official and Hasbara influencer on the fucking internet. The IOF conjured it out of thin air, it spread to journalists, it was confirmed by an Israeli spokesperson, and then echoed by the fucking President of the United States. The President told Americans he saw pictures of 40 beheaded babies because Bibi told him to say it to help manufacture consent for genocide. This is
No, that's a conspiracy theory that hasn't been demonstrated. We just looked at Netanyahu personally told Biden that babies had been beheaded. Not supported. Yeah, so the original I-24 reporting separately referred to roughly 40 babies/children found dead and reports that some babies had been beheaded. That got conflated. So if Dave says Bibi instructed Biden to spread the beheaded baby story, that's just unsupported by Davey Boy. All right. Okay. We'll do a bit more of the video here. I'm going to rest up. We've been going for only 20 minutes through the video. I'm going to rest up, and then we're going to hit the rest of this video later this afternoon/evening once Stephen Destiny has done his stream. Okay. All right. Let's watch a little bit more here.
is not a little oopsie. This is manifesting anti-Arab sentiment to greenlight the slaughtering of Palestinians. Later he
That's more conspiratorial line drawing, motive attribution that Dave almost certainly doesn't have evidence for.
admitted he didn't actually see it since nobody was going to let that shit slide, but the damage of the initial claim had been done. This is how propaganda works. Anyone diminishing this should not be taken seriously ever.
Endless claims of rape when in fact it is Israel that systematically rapes Palestinian prisoners in the most brutal manner imaginable.
People don't talk about it much because nobody pushes these people because nobody actually cares. Also, I don't know why they say, I know why. It's not 75 years of occupation. It would be like 60 years, but whatever. People say that, fuck, I just mind fucked myself. Oh, they don't believe that any rapes happened on October 7th. Or if they did, it was like one or two bad apples. All of them are consistent on.
So yeah, on this, there is enough circumstantial and testimonial evidence from survivors and victims that a UN commission found that it is almost certainly the case that Hamas had committed sexual violence on October 7th. Norm Finkelstein, who I've been getting more familiar with as of the past few weeks is spreading this rumor that just because there's a lack of forensic evidence, that means the only reasonable conclusion is that rape and sexual assault didn't happen. But he's discounting all of the eyewitness testimony, the victim testimony, and the circumstantial evidence that actually was strong enough for a UN committee to determine that sexual assault had been committed by Hamas. How widespread that was, we have a bit of an idea about that based on the testimony. Let's do the adjudication properly on that, though. All right. Pug says it's not anti-Semitic to be mad at Zionists for appropriating Jewish culture to manufacture consent for a genocide of the Palestinian people. It's not necessarily anti-Semitic, but Jewish culture is being mentioned there, and we have a common trope of manufactured consent, global control being repeated there. So it's dipping its toes into some dangerous territory if you care about not wanting to be anti-Semitic. You would have to demonstrate, if there's no evidence that Zionists have been appropriating Jewish culture to manufacture consent, and you're just spreading that around without evidence, I think the JDA and Nexus would probably consider that to be anti-Semitic problematic. We're going to adjudicate further the Hamas sexual assault, rape, and gang rape evidence. So the strongest accurate formula is that the UN found, quote, reasonable grounds to believe that rape and gang rape occurred during the Hamas-led October 7th attacks, based primarily on corroborated eyewitness accounts, digital material, crime scene / body evidence, and a cross-location pattern of sexualized violence. The March 2024 UN mission did not, however, determine the individual perpetrators or establish that Hamas leadership ordered the rape as a policy. So some people will say sexual violence occurred during October 7th. That's very strongly supported. Multiple mechanisms. Rape occurred during October 7th. That is supported. UN, quote, reasonable grounds to believe. Gang rape occurred, supported at Nova to, quote, reasonable grounds standard. Rape occurred at Nova, supported. Rape occurred on Road 232 is supported through corroborating witness accounts. Rape occurred at Raim, supported through witness plus digital corroboration. Additional gang rapes on Road 232, unverified. Every widely reported rape story was true. That is false. Genital mutilation was established as a systematic pattern. That's not established. Direct October 7th Grape survivors personally testified to Patton's mission? No. Patton relied on Israeli interrogations/confessions of captured militants? No. Explicitly excluded. Hamas-led attackers committed sexual violence as a broader phenomena that is strongly supported. Every grape can specifically be attributed to Hamas rather than another armed group/participant. That's not established. Hamas leadership ordered grape. That's not established. Grape was proven to be a systematic Hamas tactic of war. That has not been established.
On this position. There's never really pushed on it much.
What? I just brought up Israel's track record of persistent systematic sexual abuse as a method of torture. He made no comment on that, said that many people...
There have been cases of sexual abuse, but this persistent, rampant qualification of Dave's is incorrect.
People pushed back on the allegations of rape on October 7th, and then neither refuted that position.
Some of this stuff is fresh in my memory, but in the final version 2 report of this particular video by Dave, all the information will be available in hyper detail on our website at pang-burn.com/analysis.
Nor condemned Israel's obsession with raping people. What a farce.
A behind-the-scenes clip of a Lebanese short film used to claim that Palestinians were faking the war crimes against them, yielding the birth of the disgusting term Pallywood. Claims of immense networks of Hamas bases underneath hospitals to justify the bombing of every single hospital in Gaza, only to provide zero evidence of such bases after the fact, except a few planted guns.
Everybody acknowledges this. Even Amnesty International. Everybody acknowledges that these are bases that are used or co-opted. Like,
yeah, but Stephen, the mass network that was being depicted by the IDF turned out to be incorrect. El Shifa, there was evidence uncovered of an underground tunnel with a weapon and some other things found there.
Amnesty International in 2014 did big reports on Al-Shifa Hospital, for instance, being used by Hamas for torturing people and as a base of operations. And there's like tunnels underneath. It was a huge blow to UNRWA's credibility when they discovered another big like underground thing that was right next to like the entrance of the hospital in such a way that they obviously knew they were operating there. But
everybody acknowledges this? That's funny because no, they fucking don't, especially Amnesty International, who said the precise opposite of what you just claimed. You blew right past the ridiculous CGI video I showed of an...
Where is my report? Yeah, eventually Dave's going to get to saying that there was zero evidence of Al-Shifa. So the exact material response excerpt, the Hamas command center claim was effectively concocted from nothing. Only planted guns and a calendar existed. Correction and assessment would be Israel's maximal public depiction of a sprawling central command complex was not established at the advertised scale, but U.S. intelligence and reporting supported some Hamas PIJ use of the complex, including command infrastructure.
An incredibly elaborate system of tunnels and rooms filled with weapons and whatnot, as well as Israel's pathetic attempt to substantiate this claim upon raiding Al-Shifa. They could have filmed their entry live on body cams and shown everyone this elaborate terrorist base, no? Instead, they delayed for the better part of a day, and when they finally showed everyone what was inside, it was just a few guns they planted next to an MRI machine and a list of terrorists that was really a calendar.
It hasn't been demonstrated that this weapon was planted, or these weapons were planted by Israel or the IDF.
That's all. They released a video showing a
The calendar part is true.
tunnel in 2 small rooms, which could have been fucking anything. Zero evidence of terrorist activity. Amnesty.
No, that's not zero evidence of terrorist activity, Dave. You're doubling down on this one when you shouldn't be. Well, what time are we at now? We're getting close to 3 hours, everyone. I'm going to take a break, and we'll fire up the stream a little bit later. I'm going to try and rest and feel better. For those of you who don't know, I had food poisoning last night, so I'm just kind of, I thought it was important to start working on this information. So, but I'm going to take a rest, and then we will fire it up again and keep going. Yeah, and we are 20 minutes into the video. All of this data will eventually be available publicly to everyone on our website at pang-burn.com/analysis. I want to thank all of you for joining me here today, and I hope you can make it when we go live in the evening here. Thanks, everybody. I love you all, and please make sure you're out there maximizing well-being for yourself and those around you. Thank you.